What's up, everybody? Welcome to Touchdown Texas, episode 20. I'm your host, Shiva Patel, and I'm my co-host here, Nick Rodriguez. Unfortunately, we're coming off a Horns loss in the semifinals in Dallas to the Ohio State Buckeyes. The Horns lost 28-14. We have a lot of thoughts about the game. I know Nick does as well. But Nick, first of all, how was your weekend and how are you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. I mean, all things considered, fantastic season from the Longhorns. Excited about the future. We're going to get into it today, but, obviously a tough way to go out. But, still happy to be here. Always happy to be a Longhorn, and let's get into it.
For sure. And before we get into it, I just wanted to say follow us at touchdown_Texas on our social media channels and like and subscribe to our YouTube page. Like Nick said, it was an amazing season. It was a pretty good game as well. A lot to be proud of as a Longhorns fan. We're going to be talking about the game, but we're also going to be expressing our optimism for the Longhorns in the future because there's a lot of great things that happened this year that we can build on in the future. But everybody kind of tuned in to talk about the game, so let's talk about it. So I would like to fast forward all the way to the fourth quarter. So before I get Nick's thoughts, let me just give some context. So we were at the goal line, at the 1 yard line after two Ohio State pass interference calls, moved the ball to the 1 yard line, and unfortunately we failed on fourth and goal from the 8 yard line, and we were not able to convert in a strip fumble. Ohio State was able to take it down the field, score a touchdown, and ended up winning the game 28-14. So what were your thoughts about that whole goal line sequence, Nick?
Man, that was really tough. That was really tough because, you're on the 1 yard line. You feel like your offensive line is strong. I feel like we didn't get pushed around a ton where it was an issue. And everyone's going to talk about it, but obviously it's that first play where we tossed it to Wisner and we ended up losing a ton of yards. I think in that situation, you need to just go forward and run the ball forward. Maybe you put Arch in. Maybe it's just Quinn. But I think you just have to use momentum because you're right there. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. We're not having this conversation. If we block and Wisner breaks it and we score and we tie the game and it goes to overtime, we're not having the same conversation. No one's going to care that you do that. We still ran the ball. And then obviously a few plays later, Quinn drops back, doesn't see his old roommate, which I heard all about over the last week or so while they're building up to this game. Jack Sawyer, who's a fantastic player, strip sacks him. Quinn didn't really see him, thought he had enough time to get rid of it. Obviously didn't. And then we had to see him run all the way down the field to really put the game away. And I mean, there was some time left, but really only about 2 minutes left, really. And that was the game. That was the season. And you mentioned it. We had a phenomenal season. There's so much to be proud of and happy, and had one of the best seasons, in our history, really. Hadn't had 13-win season in a long time, but just a brutal, gut-wrenching way to go. I know Sark's probably killing himself right now. Wish he ran the ball, but again, obviously you want to run up the middle, but again, this is if we end up scoring on that possession, no one's going to really care. Just didn't go our way, didn't break our way, unfortunately, and Ohio State's now in the national championship game. But very unfortunate way to lose that one.
It really was because last year, if everybody remembers, we lost on a goal line stand to Washington, and now basically 2 years in a row we've lost on a goal line stand. And this year, the team was 88th in red zone efficiency, which it was a small improvement from last year. But if you're a championship caliber team, that's still not good enough for sure. But let me run through the first 4 plays. So like I said, Ohio State had 2 pass interference calls. So we had the ball at the 1 yard line. First play, they bring Baby Rhino, a.k.a. Jared Gibson, in number 9, a true freshman. He gets stuffed at the 1 yard line. Second play, as Nick mentioned, it is tossed to Trey Wisner, ends up losing 7 yards and goes to the 8 yard line. The third play, Jack Sawyer actually deflects a pass. Quinn Ewers was trying to throw to Ryan Wingo, and he was open, but Jack Sawyer put his big paws up and deflected the ball. And as we know, Jack Sawyer got a strip sack on the last play. I did not like this play sequence on the goal line situation. The first play, when Jarrett Gibson comes in, it's a tell sign to the defense that we're going to hand the ball off to him if you watch Texas all season. I would have just liked if we just went north and south and just handed it to Wisner up the middle at least 2 times, maybe 3.
Yeah.
In the toss sweep, all year, the toss sweep and the goal line has not worked. Yes, we tried it on Kelvin Banks' side, which Kelvin Banks is an amazing run blocker, but Ohio State had more guys on the edge that we can block. I think they were anticipating that play, especially since we couldn't get yards down the middle. So I would have liked either Sark or Quinn to call an audible and change that play. Third down play, I had no problem with. You kind of had to pass in that play, and didn't work. The fourth down, Quinn had the ball in his hands for too long, and we couldn't block Jack Sawyer. So it was tough. Someone's going to be looking at this, all off season. We got to fix these red zone issues because it reared its ugly head 2 years in a row, and it cost us our season. And I think it was just bad play calling. Yes, Ohio State made the plays, but I feel like Friday night we beat ourselves more than Ohio State won.
I 100% agree. I mean, that's something that we need to really evaluate in the offseason. Like you said, it's now 2 years in a row. That Washington game was really tough, but that one I don't think hurt me as bad because that was like, man, we're here. Like, oh, this is great. We have a chance to play Michigan in the national championship.
Right.
And we were outplayed for most of that game, and then we came back and had a real chance, and obviously that was gut-wrenching as well. But this is something that we need to fix. It's 2 years in a row where it's been inefficient. Even if we don't turn the ball over and we get a field goal, although I guess that still wouldn't help really because we were down by so much already. But it was just a tough way to go, and it definitely has to be something to improve on. Now, the interesting thing is that we do open up next season against Ohio State. So I know that's going to be a lot of motivation in the offseason to face the Buckeyes again and get it right. But there's just in a lot of games that we've broken down, it usually doesn't come down to 2 plays or 1 play. But Friday night was one of those weird scenarios where we went tit for tat with them and blow for blow, but there was 2 key plays that really changed the course of the game and really cost us the game. Obviously, we just talked about the one where Quinn doesn't get rid of it in time, or we didn't run it in on the 1 yard line, which is really, really terrible. And they end up scoring to go up 28-14. I know, it makes me sick. But then the other one is we take all that momentum. They were up 7-0. Right. And we tie up the game 7-7. 2 plays later, we do a corner blitz and right before halftime, and they go up 14-7. Just kind of killed the momentum that we had. And hats off to them. They made the right plays to advance. It's just, I think we have the talent, we have the guys. It's just in the key moments, sometimes we're not making the key plays or the key execution to get us over that hump. It's 2 years in a row we've been in the semifinals. It's a great place to be in. As a Longhorn fan, we know how sour it's been over the last 10 years, but oh man, when you're that close to a national championship game, it's really tough.
It really was. And just the one last thing I wanted to talk about with the goal line stand. So Sark said at the end of the game, it was just unfortunate that we turned the ball over. Like, by turn the ball over, I mean like Ohio State going down and scoring a touchdown off a strip sack. Say if that pass on 4th and goal was incomplete, well, Ohio State would have had the ball at the 7 or 8 yard line, and we still had 3 timeouts, I believe. So in the 2-minute warning, so our defense was playing well all second half, so we could have still stopped them 3 and out, and then we would have gotten good field position, and then we still could have scored with under 2 minutes left to tie the game. It was just unfortunate that the game ended on a turnover and a touchdown. So that was the last thing I'll say about that. And what Nick was alluding to. So it was right before the half. Texas had all the momentum. Jaden Blue, what a game that guy had. 2 touchdowns.
He was awesome. Yes.
He was really good. So it was a beautiful pass on a wheel route. I can't hear the Quinn haters. I couldn't hear the Quinn haters after that play, but it's okay. So Ohio State gets the ball back. What do? We're in a prevent defense, 20 yards down the field, and Ohio State executes the screen pass perfectly to number 32, Travion Henderson, who we know he's a home run hitter. Once he has full speed, it's hard to stop him. They had 3 blockers in front of him, and the only real guy that had a chance to tackle him was Michael Tapp because he aggressively came at the blockers. But Travion Henderson's a big guy. He's hard to bring down, and he just completely scores a touchdown, a 75-yard play. And It was before halftime, and I was proud of this team because they could have quit because our third quarters are not our quarter, but instead on the third quarter, we get an interception because Ohio State gets the ball to start the second half. David Benda, 6-year senior, who got replaced by Leona Lafau and Anthony Hill, he made a huge play. And then we go down on a 67-yard drive, and it capped off by a pass to Jaden Blue in the third quarter to tie the game.
I think that just made me so happy the way you said that, though. I mean, things are not going to always break your way, right? You're going to lose games. You know, Georgia has found that out recently. I'm not throwing shade at them, but they went back to back, and it's just so hard to win championships. Alabama's finding that out, not under the Saban era. So it's extremely hard to win in this league. The 12-team playoff worked. Like, it's awesome. We just fell in some of the more crucial moments. I mean, like you said, like it's just a great play. I mean, by a great running back, by a great coach, by a great team. And it's just so unfortunate to be that close. But what I do, like you said, and the positive side is we battled back. As you said all season, the third quarter has been really, really a weak spot for us all season.
May I just jump in for one thing real quick?
Yeah.
So before the Arizona State game, just to add to Nick's point, we were outscored 43-6 in the third quarter. Go ahead, Nick.
No, exactly. No, exactly. I'm glad you said that. Exactly. So that's been something that's No, you're fine. That's something that's been an issue all season. It reared its ugly head against Arizona State, but man, in a way that you could have easily just laid down and just taken the L. I thought the guys fought hard all night. It's an unfortunate way for that to happen. The ball didn't bounce our way, but it's going to bounce our way eventually, and we're going to get through. But man, they really battled. That first opening drive, Ohio State goes down and scores a touchdown, and all I hear, because you're at the game, right? So I'm hearing the announcers, glorifying Ohio State, making it seem like it was a blowout. When they marched down the field. But then after that, shut them down. Weren't able to really do as much. I mean, it was awesome to see us fight like that and get some respect that we've been longing for all season. Hopefully that gives us some respect. Everyone now says it's still a blowout because we lost by 14, but it was a touchdown game the whole time and then just had a late error. But no, I think that's something that you can hold your head high if you're a Longhorns fan or player or coach or staff member or whatever. Is we battled to the very, very end, and that's something that you can hang your hat on, and that is awesome because a lot of teams would have given up last night being down like that, and we didn't. It just didn't go our way.
It didn't go our way. Ohio State executed in more crucial situations. End of the second quarter, goal line stand. In offense, when they were in the red zone, they scored touchdowns. And yes, I love Nick's point because even the UT fans around me and some of the people around me, when Ohio State just went boom, 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 88 yards, scored a touchdown in the first possession of the game, they were like, "Oh no, is this going to be a blowout?" Because we've known Ohio State has destroyed people in the first half of this playoffs. Tennessee, Oregon. The game has been practically over at halftime. We did not let that happen. And as a result, we got the game close. And you saw in the second half, Ohio State committed some dumb penalties. And in my opinion, they were on the ropes in the fourth quarter, but that play got them off the ropes and got them in comfortable position. But let's talk about Quinn Ewers, QB1. So this is most likely his last game, as a Longhorn. He had 2 touchdown passes last night, 283 yards. He did have that one interception, but I don't really count that because it was kind of like in a situation where you had to throw the ball that deep, in order to get a quick touchdown. But how would you grade his performance and break down his play Friday night?
Oh, man. There's a lot to be said about Quinn. First, Quinn, we love you, man. It's tough. This is, your last go as a Longhorn. Still don't know really what he's going to do. Hopefully he goes to the draft and proves those doubters wrong. But I don't know if it was his best performance last night. He did throw a couple of touchdowns. He kept us in the game. There were still some issues of him stepping up into the pocket too slowly and just walking into sacks, which was not obviously helpful. I still think he balled out. I'm going to B-. I still think he did what he had to in that situation. Obviously, the killer is that Jack Sawyer fumble where he takes it in for a touchdown. I mean, that's what really brings the grade down. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm being biased here. Maybe it should be more of a C+. But he gutted it out. He was there until the very end, and that the 2 touchdowns were obviously massive. Jaden Blue balled out, but I'm still going to give him. Since it's the last ride, I'll curve his grade and I'll give him a B- just because, I mean, man, Ohio State's got an awesome defense, and he didn't back down. I just think, and this is going to be an issue when he gets drafted, is sometimes, I mean, really last night or the other night, he was stepping into sacks so many times, but I just thought he was gutsy. He did what he could. It's just a really good defense. So I'll be nice. I'll give him a curve, and I'll give him a B-.
I would also give him a B-. And me and Nick did not talk about this before, so I had B- in my mind as I was asking Nick the question. I actually think he played well. He put out some good tape, last night against a good Ohio State defense. We started out really rough on third downs, 1 for 8, but in the third quarter on that 67-play drive to Jaden Blue, Quinn and the offense converted 4 straight third downs. On the most impressive play of the night for him was a 3rd and 10. Jack Sawyer, believe it or not, looked like he was about to sack him, but before Quinn's knee touched the ground, he flipped it to Trey Wisner, and then they got a first down. That was a huge play in the game. He also threw some nice balls to Matthew Golden, who he was out for 2.5 quarters. So that should factor into Quinn's grade as well. Huge. And a brutal Isaiah Bond drop down the middle. That was terrible. So he was without his top 2 wide receivers. They did a poor job of not getting Gunnar Helm involved again until the second half. He had 0 catches in the first half, which is unacceptable. But those passes to Jaden Blue were awesome. He anticipated it. He threw a catchable pass, and it was for 26 and 18 yards. So it wasn't just some 5-10 yard dump. No, that was a great throws. And then the third quarter on that drive, Ohio State was bringing all kinds of blitzes at Quinn Ewers. Yes, he got himself into sacks in the first half, as Nick said correctly, but in the second half, they were bringing more blitzes from the edge, and Quinn Ewers correctly anticipated those plays and threw the ball out in the flap and to the running backs. And those were awesome plays because those led to first downs, and he did not let the blitz get to him, and he was throwing under pressure. So that's when I said he put good tape out there, because that's going to be his life in the NFL. So I think a B- is a correct grade, and we appreciate everything that you did, Quinn. You're going to be a legend here, and best of luck in the NFL.
Oh, well said. I mean, definitely well said. I mean, the Matthew Golden, him being out, I mean, what does that change? We didn't bring that up at the very beginning. I'm glad you said that, because that was brutal. That's just been a guy who is really talk about draft stock. His draft stock has exploded over the last 6 weeks. I mean, we saw him at Florida have a massive game. I feel like that's really where it started. But, I mean, he's been awesome. And to not have him for that amount of time was killer. The Isaiah Bond, massive drop. I mean, luckily it was an interception, because the way he kind of put it into his body and then it kind of popped out. I mean, we've seen crazy things where that ends up being an interception. But no, I mean, it's just all love for Quinn. I hate to see a guy that really, him and Ellinger, I always see as guys that brought us out of the dark ages. And for people, other fan bases aside, I don't care about them, because obviously they're going to try to shred us. Obviously, that's what they do. But Texas fans got to do better, because, I mean, you're being disrespectful to a legend that's now gone, whether he is a grad transfer. He goes to the North Carolinas. That's been kind of rumored a little bit, even though we think he's going to the draft. You're disrespecting a legend, man. This is one of the greatest Longhorn quarterbacks of all time. He always did it with respect and everything. And to treat him like that after, he wants that more than anybody on that field. So I think Texas fans need to do better, and because you're going to miss him when he's gone. Arch is going to be awesome. Arch is going to be a legend too, but we were in some dark ages not that long ago. Mm-hmm. And I think you need to say thank you to 3 one more time. But yeah, going to miss Quinn for sure.
It needed to be said. Thank you for saying that. And for some of our off-season episodes, me and Nick are continuing to plan that. We're gonna dive deep into Quinn's legacy because there's a lot of different facets
Yes.
that we want to talk about. Some games, iconic games that he had that need to be rehashed.
Oh,
For some portion of the Longhorns fan. So that's some of our off-season episodes. That we'll talk about more. But just wanted to say thank you, Quinn Ewers. It was a hell of a ride. You do 2 touchdown passes against Ohio State. He played better against Ohio State's defense than Nico did, Tennessee quarterback, than Dylan Gabriel did, Oregon quarterback.
yep.
And he fought all the way to the end. Sark said all year Quinn was not 100% healthy at any time all year. Those were Sark's words. And what does he do? He fought for his teammates. He even had some nice runs up the middle. He's just a guy that did whatever it takes to win. I'm not saying he didn't miss throws. He did miss some throws last night, but that's any quarterback. We talked about a quarterback's not going to go 40 for 40 for 6 touchdowns every game.
Right. And 200 rushing. Like,
yes. Mahomes didn't do that in college. He does not do that every game for the Kansas City Chiefs. So Quinn is not perfect. He has some weaknesses, just like any quarterback, but he has strengths as well. And I look forward to seeing where he gets drafted. But let's just quickly.
Can I say one more thing?
Go ahead.
One more quick thing on the Quinn thing. It's weird because it's always one of those players every year who gets so much hate for no reason. There's always a guy, whether it's because I feel like my thing is like anybody could do the same thing as Quinn and they'd be like praising him and being like, oh, he's amazing and we love you, Quinn. And of course, there's a lot of Texas fans that love Quinn and everything that he's done, but the national media is ripping Quinn. It's like, man, this is a college kid who gave it his guts and glory going against his old team, gave it everything he had, beat Alabama on the road when he was first starting, or I guess that was his second year starting. But either way, like, it's a guy. It feels like the people love to jump on him. He's like an easy guy to hate on and stuff. There's always a guy every year that people pick on, and unfortunately, it's Quinn. But I think the good thing about Quinn is that he doesn't seem to care. It doesn't really seem to bother him that much. At least he doesn't. I'm sure it bothers him to some degree, but he's not letting it perceive that way in his play and in his attitude. So definitely going to miss Quinn. But I just wanted to say that they're just picking on the guy that they feel like is easy to pick on. That's all.
Yeah, Quinn is such a calm, laid-back dude. He was a Longhorn. He has that picture
not
with
controversial.
The helmet. Yeah, not at all. He would have beat Alabama's first year in 2022 if he didn't get
100%.
He won a Big 12 championship. We hadn't won it in a minute. He won at Alabama. He won at Michigan. He led us to 2 straight semifinals. What more do you want from the guy? But we're going to be talking about his legacy down the road. So be sure to tune in for that because there's a lot to talk about. But Quinn Ewers, thank you for everything. And we look forward to seeing you ball out in the NFL. And just to go back to your hate, remember after Worthy's sophomore year when he had that broken hand, he got so much hate because people were like, he's not giving a lot of effort, this, that. And then, so I don't know what.
There's always somebody.
As Longhorns fans, we cannot, hate our players. We have to support them. And even if you think you like, for example, even if you like one quarterback or one receiver better that's not playing, you still have to support the players that are playing because they are true Longhorns and they're good guys, and we're on the upward trajectory. Okay, yeah. So that's what we had to say about Quinn, and he had a good moments last night, just not enough. But again, thank you for everything, Quinn. So let's talk about the rest of the offense. So Jaden Blue had 2 touchdowns, and he's another player that, he's had an up and down season, Nick. He got his carry slashed in half. He lost his, starting positioner, Trey Wisner. Talk about his performance Friday night.
Man, that's another guy that just extremely proud of. Extremely proud. You said a true Longhorn. That's a true Longhorn right there. I mean, like you said, obviously you have CJ Baxter, who unfortunately gets hurt. That's huge. I've seen people tweeting like, man, how does that affect the 1-yard play if we have him healthy all season long? But no, Trey Wisner took over his position. Jaden Blue had the fumble issues, as we all have talked about. But, man, has he really, really cleaned that up. And he is such a weapon as a receiving back, man. And I hope he comes back. You probably know more about that than I do, but 2 touchdowns, 2 great throws by Quinn. The ability for him to wiggle and get out. I feel like we don't stress as much when he has the ball. Tashard Choice has done an awesome job coaching him up on how to protect the ball. Just gutsy. I mean, because a guy like that, and Arch, I'll give Arch the same kind of love too, is you don't know when you're getting the ball. You don't know when you're going to come in, and you come in, you do your job. Arch did that too on a 4th and 1, and Jaden Blue, man, yeah, a guy gets hurt in front of you, which you hate to see. You're the starting back. Everyone loves you. You start fumbling the ball. Weiser's going off your buddy, and then all of a sudden you lose your starting the job. And for him to just be a machine and be a reason that we're in this game, because Isaiah Bond had some key drops, as you mentioned. Matthew Golden, got hurt, which was so unfortunate because we love Matthew Golden. But man, I love Jaden Blue, and hopefully he comes back. But that's another guy whose draft stock is rising and rising every day.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, we're going to do an episode in the offseason of all the Longhorns guys stay or go. We're going to get our opinion because last year we had 11 or 12 guys drafted. This year we have at least going to have 11 guys drafted, maybe even more. It might even be 14 or 15. So it's going to be absolute crazy. So look forward to that episode. But yeah, Jaden Blue, he had a rocky year, but he continued to fight through adversity. Coach Troy said he was continuing to be a great teammate. He was best friends with Trey Wisner. He was not salty about losing his job. He made the most of his opportunities. I love that. And I am proud of this coaching staff for using Jaden Blue in the passing game, because we know he's not the biggest guy, so he's not great at running between the tackles. At times he was, but that's not his strength. So what do? You use him on screen passes, out passes. So they did a good job using him in the passing game when you could utilize his strengths. And he was an absolute weapon, a machine. It's going to be a question now whether he comes back to Texas, because he said before the year, I want this to be my last year at Texas and go into the draft. But he didn't necessarily have the stats this year as he was anticipating, with CJ Baxter going down. So I believe he's either going to go to the draft early, be a 7th round undrafted free agent, or going to come back to Texas. But that's kind of like, because we're going to have a loaded running back room next year. But again, Jaden Blue balled out. He had a great game, 2 touchdown passes, and he showed his soft hands against Ohio State.
I think so too. I would like for him to come back selfishly, but also I think it would be good for him just to prove again that he can do it. We are going to have a loaded running back room next year, but I think he has shown how great of a teammate he is. And the thing that's different about a running back is that it's almost like if you show that you can do it at a high level in college, but you don't abuse your legs a lot, that's almost a better asset, right? Like if I'm a quarterback, starting for whoever, I need to play games and start, and everyone needs to see that I do it. But a running back, you almost want them to have less load on their legs. So maybe, I guess that makes it, maybe he should go to the draft, that being said. But I'm just saying having a big running back room is not the worst thing for him, because he could keep his legs healthy and not as wore down as some of those like Alabama teams that had just one guy, that like Derrick Henry, who was like running it constantly down your throat. Next year we'll have Wisner, and there'll be, Baby Rhino, there'll be other guys that he'll have to compete with for sure. But he is so good catching the ball in the backfield, and he's just getting better and better. So I think for his draft stock, I think he should come back and run it with us again. I would love to have JB back one more time, but I could totally see if he goes to draft for. I think he'd be an awesome asset. Imagine him on the Eagles or something like that with Jalen Hurts and Saquon. I mean, that'd be a
nasty,
a nice little combo.
For sure. And so then just to talk about the offense, the wide receivers, they didn't have the best performance, a Friday night. I would give them a C-, for that performance. And then just to talk about tight ends, it's hard to grade the tight ends because Gunnar Helm didn't get a lot of opportunities, but he made a huge catch before that strip sack Samba. And by the way, that was a weak call on unsportsmanlike conduct because he was pointing. He was pointing a first down, and that was Caleb. That was Caleb Downs, but basically he trucked. And those who don't know Caleb Downs, he was at Alabama his freshman year. He's one of the best safeties in the country, and Gunnar Helm just trucked him. And that was a weak call. And the offensive line, I'll give a B- too. Offensive, they could have played better. But Quinn also went into some sacks on some clean pockets, but they started getting pushed and dominating the trenches in the second half.
I agree. I mean, I agree with those. I mean, the wide receiver is The wide receiver is the most interesting thing because that's something that's been something that we've relied on, especially Matthew Golden. Unfortunately, that we've mentioned a few times now, he got dinged up and couldn't be the same guy when he came back. And Isaiah Bond, man, how healthy was he? I mean, that really felt like a storyline over the last 2 months. Like, we're getting him back, we're getting him back, we're getting him back, we're getting him back, and then man, he doesn't really feel the same. And you mentioned that when we were talking about the win over Arizona State is, man, he did not look as explosive. That feels like a guy that should come back again and really rise that draft stock, because him coming off that Alabama year 2 years ago now it was a freak, was awesome. Obviously had that crazy catch against Auburn. But kind of took a dip this year, I felt, just because the injuries. Obviously, we know the talent's there. He's obviously super, super talented. So that's a guy I'd also like to see selfishly come back again, just because. Just stay healthy, dude. Stay healthy. And, the more that those guys are healthy, the more that helps out Quinn and the offensive line and the running game. It all ties together, as we know. But, yeah, I agree with your grades on those guys.
Well, awesome. So, and then the offense, last thing we're going to touch on, they did use Arch Manning on a 4th and 1. It was a beautiful play call. They acted like Gunnar Helm was going to come under center, and then he leaves, and they snap to Arch Manning, and he gets the run. There was some discussion that did Arch get concussed on that play, because if you watch the replay, he did get hit in the back of the head. That hit was low-key kind of late, but again, they didn't throw the penalty. And so that was some question about why Arch did not come in the 4th quarter, because was he not available for that game? I don't think we'll know the answer to that question, but his health may have been questionable. That's why he didn't come in. But he's going to be the starting quarterback next year. But I did want to see a couple more times Arch Manning, run the ball. And I'm still surprised, Nick, that we did not see a variation where Arch fakes like he's going to run, and we did not, and he passes the ball, because we did not see him against Arizona State. We may have seen him 1 or 2 plays against Clemson, but that package didn't involve as much as I wanted it to.
I agree, man. As soon as we started seeing Arch play, and keep in mind, man, it's like he started a few games. So, like, it was when Quinn went down with the oblique, but it's just like we were talking about that for weeks. We're like, surely Sark is going to come up with some sort of package where he fakes it's like an RPO. He's going to run, pass, option, and he could throw it to Helm, something goal line, something Tebow, like when Tebow was first coming in to Florida, when they would take Chris Leak out and bring in Tebow. But we didn't see that at all this season. It was all run, unless he was starting. Obviously, he did other things, but I don't know. It feels like a little bit of a missed opportunity from Sark. Maybe he didn't trust him enough. Maybe he just didn't want to ruin momentum with Quinn. I don't know, but especially on those 4th downs, in the Georgia game, because like you mentioned, this is not the only time that we have struggled in the red zone. We moved the ball up and down. We moved the ball up and down against Georgia. You would think some sort of flair. Obviously, something's not working. Whether you want to blame Quinn, which you know how we feel about that, whether you want to blame the offensive line, the receivers, something isn't working completely 110%, or we would have more points. Let's try throwing Arch out there in some sort of scheme. Put Quinn in as a receiver. Like, do something funny, something creative like that. I think it was a little bit of a missed opportunity from Sark, but all things considered, Sark's obviously our guy and phenomenal coach. But just wish he did something like that, where you have 2 great QB1s that you could be a little bit more creative.
No, that's well said, and I definitely agree. But we'll see, when Arch is the starting quarterback next year, is there going to be that same running package, or are you just going to be a straight back, dual threat quarterback, the RPO? Definitely one of the storylines to watch next year, but we're excited. The Arch Manning era has officially begun in Texas. But now let's talk about the defense. So it looked like in the first drive, we're like, oh no, this is going to be a long day for this defense, because Ohio State just went boom, boom, boom right down the field. But Ohio State's best receiver, number 4, Jeremiah Smith, only had 1 catch for 3 yards. But Carnell Tate and Egbuba had big games. Carnell Tate had 87 yards. Egbuba had 51 yards, and the running backs had some yards too at the backfield. So talk about this defense. How would you grade them, their performance Friday night?
Man, I'm going an A. I don't care. I'm going an A, because I think, man, you shut down the number 1 wide receiver in the country, Jeremiah Smith, for 1 catch for 3 yards. Oh man, about to be DBU again. But I mean, I just love Michael Tapp. I'm gonna miss Jade Barron so much. Come back, Jade. Obviously he can't. He's gonna go pro. But no, they made him so irrelevant. Now that being said, obviously they don't just have Jeremiah Smith. They have other weapons that obviously popped off, and I'm sure Jeremiah Smith became a decoy at some point. Knowing that he was kind of trapped and everything. But man, they balled out. They played a great game. Some of those points that they scored is because the offense gave it away. So you can't penalize them for giving up 21. It's more like, or 28. It's more like 21. So I thought they played great. I thought they played aggressive. That first drive, they went ding, 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 like you said, and went down the field, and the announcers were glazing all over Ohio State. Oh man, it's gonna be a long day for the. I'm like, oh my god. But then all of a sudden, it was a stalemate because all I heard, and this was driving me crazy. The game is going to be decided in one quarter. They're going to lose the game. You can lose the game in one quarter. What was the score at the end of the first quarter?
It was 7-0 only. Yeah.
7-0. They made it seem like it was going to be 35-3, like Oregon and Tennessee. We were trying to tell you, we have one of the best defenses in the country. If you want to say Notre Dame, okay. If you want to say Ohio State, okay. I'm done. That is it. We have a better defense than Penn State. But point is everyone thought it'd be a blowout. It wasn't a blowout. It was a nail biter to the very end. That's because of our defense. I'm only disappointed that our offense couldn't push it enough because that was a championship level defense, and we'll see how much we can replace them next year. But man, they balled out. They shut down Jeremiah Smith and obviously the running game, did very well. They have so much talent on that team that they are going to beat you somehow if you don't execute offense, very similar to Georgia. But yeah, I mean, all I heard is how much Jeremiah Smith was going to get 200 yards on us, and he only got 3 more than you and I. So I think that's pretty good. I'll give him an A. Three yards.
I give him an A too. Yeah, Jeremiah said this was his worst game of the year. He was basically non-existent. And in his defense, we did bracket him. There was a coverage where we did bracket him. We put this helping safety to him, but still,
of course,
he's seen those coverages before, and he's mossed people,
right.
and he's
absolutely not the first time.
Yeah. So and yeah, he there's only 3 yards where a screen pass, and he's a bowling ball, no screen passes, because he's a big guy. He's like 6'3", like 230, so he can break tackles and he's fast. So, but when we were bracketing Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and Abuba really hurt us down the middle on those middle crossing routes and those deep passes. And they found mismatches on our DBs, whether it was Gavin Holmes, because Johnny Barron most of the game was on Jeremiah Smith. So they picked on Gavin Holmes and they picked on Jalen Gilbo, and they were not able to cover these Ohio State wide receivers. And at times we struggled to tackle them in space when we should have. But otherwise, once we started getting pressure on Will Howard, our game plan coming into this game was to only rush 4, drop 7. Well, we saw after the first touchdown play, that plan is not going to work at all. So we started pressuring Will Howard.
Yeah, exactly.
We started getting home. What about Colin Simmons? 2 deflected passes. He's going to be a superstar, ladies and gentlemen. And he didn't want to come out. He wanted to play every game. There was a play where he came out and he did not look happy at all of the sideline. He has that dog in him. He wanted to be in every single play. I love
Colin Simmons.
And because they knew they couldn't block him, basically. And these are NFL offensive linemen that had no answer for a true freshman. And he's number 11, by the way, for those people that didn't get to see. But Vernon Broden had a good game. Alfred Collins, which he started pressuring Will Howard. Anthony Hill was all over the field. He had a lot of big-time tackles, as you see on this graphic right here. And we made Ohio State uncomfortable. We forced them to punt and to get into long yardage situations, 3rd and long, and they're not comfortable in those situations. And so our defense did a really good job of making Ohio State, one-dimensional. They did not run the ball as much as they wanted to. We made them a passing team, but sadly, Ohio State has stud wide receivers, so they were able to capitalize on those plays. But again, defense gets an A to A+ because they kept us in this game. they forced Ohio State to punt the ball and made their offense stall, basically, and that gave us an opportunity to make this game close in the fourth quarter.
Absolutely. I mean, you said everything correctly there. I mean, that was well said. It was a great performance. It's a lot of great guys that, played their heart out. I mean, Colin Simmons is going to be a first-round pick, probably a top 10 pick when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Jahdae Barron is going to be a top, 15 pick. We'll get into all the draft stuff. I'm jumping ahead, but no, it's just a great defense, a great crew. Ethan Burke. I mean, there's so many guys that you'd love to see. It was so fun to watch. I mean, at the beginning of the season, we didn't know how the defense was going to perform, and obviously it ended up being one of the better ones we've ever had. But I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be interesting. Despite the loss and everything, I'm excited to do off-season episodes and stuff. We're not going anywhere. We're still going to create episodes and talk about, like you said, the draft and talk about just the future of Texas football. Arch Manning. We'll do some fun episodes about who we'd rather have and stuff like that. So it's going to be fun. It's time for basketball season and everything like that. But, like you said, the defense played outstanding once again. It kept us in it once again. I mean, just think about it. If we have an average defense, we're getting shellacked in that game.
Yep.
We're getting shellacked against Georgia. We probably have more losses than we do. We ended up with 3, 2 to Georgia. Okay. They made it to the quarterfinals. They won the SEC. I think they're pretty good. And then 1 to Ohio State. They're in the national championship game. So I think that's damn good. So as far as I'm concerned, there's 2 teams that had a better season than us. That's Ohio State and Notre Dame. Penn State can kick rocks. And that's all I got to say on that.
No, for sure. And you said something earlier that I wanted to touch on. We have a better defense than Penn State. Penn State may have the better overall player. Number 11, Abdul Carter is a beast. He's a problem.
Yeah,
but our collective defense is better than Penn State's. And all I heard coming into this game was from the experts around the country is like, oh, how is this Texas defense going to be able to stop this Ohio State offense? It's going to be a fireworks show and everything. They have not played anybody. They have not played an offense like Ohio State. Well, besides the first touchdown drive, we only allowed, we allowed limited yards and we allowed limited points. Nowadays, in football, you're not going to completely shut down a team. Those days are over. It's just about limiting those big explosive plays. And for the most part, I believe we did that. We made Ohio State dink and dunk down the field and have those long extended drives that we did not let them have those big explosive plays. So I think we did a great job with that. And our defense, you kind of feel like, we kind of wasted the year a little bit with an outstanding defense that was number 1 in the country. But again, PK is an awesome defensive coordinator. He's not going anywhere. They said he has no head coaching aspirations. He already tried that. He did not like that as much. He just wants to be a defensive coordinator. And what better way to do that at the University of Texas?
Absolutely. Like let's be positive for a second. I mean, yes, there are some guys leaving. Absolutely. But we have some guys coming in. They're going to be freaking scary. I mean, that's what I'm excited for. We get into this offseason stuff where we can, be sad for a little bit. But we were texting before we recorded and we're like, I feel okay. It was a hell of a season. There's only a few teams that could say that they had a better year than us. And we know how low it has been where you're like fighting for a bowl game. You're like 5-5 and at the end of the season, you're like, oh my God. And then, so this is an awesome place to be, is my point. You have so many 5-stars coming in, so many studs. Forgot the French.
JB French.
Jamie French. I saw him on TikTok the other day make that crazy
from Jacksonville
catch. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's some guys coming in that we're going to fall in love with in July and in August next season. So there's a lot to be excited for. Obviously, it's a tough way to go. It's a tough loss, but hey, Buckeyes, we're coming for you. We got some motivation.
Revenge game, yeah.
Revenge game, Labor Day, Arch coming out party. So pumped. But, it's on to bigger and better things.
Yes, and part of this offseason is, so a lot of those freshmen are going to be enrolling in the spring, and we also are going to have an awesome transfer class. So me and Nick, as part of this offseason episodes, we're going to be introducing Longhorns fans, to these players because we didn't start our episodes until August. So this time we're going to have a full spring. We're going to introduce everybody to the new Longhorns, and you're going to fall in love with some of these guys because they're awesome. We're reloading on the defensive line. We already got 2 studs from the portal, more to come. We got a good freshman defensive line class. So definitely great days ahead. And yes, Longhorns fans, we can feel sad and disappointed about this game, but we did not lose to a bad opponent. I just want to make that clear. This is Ohio State. They're one of the blue bloods in the country. You can tell they were pissed off. They were angry because they have not won a national championship. It's been a decade that Zeke Elliott was there. Believe it or not, they have not won. Yeah, in 2015. What's his name? Cardell Jones, the 3rd string quarterback.
That was that crazy. They had like 3 quarterbacks.
And by the way, they won the national championship in Jerry World that year, so it comes full circle for them. And 6 weeks ago, they wanted to blow the whole operation up. They wanted to fire Ryan Day after losing to Michigan, and that Michigan loss, Nick said it in the previous episode, that was the best thing that could ever happen to Ohio State. They should send flowers to the Michigan program because they came motivated. There was people holding up signs because I was at the game. Ohio against the world, but missed me with that, but whatever.
Oh my god! Get over yourself.
Yes, and they took their anger out on Tennessee. They took their anger on Oregon. They tried to take their anger out on us, but we did not allow that to happen. We pushed back, and it was a good game. The score was not indicative to how close the game was. We did not lose by 2. It was not a 2-touchdown difference. It was neck and neck. Just Ohio State executed and made the plays down the stretch, and we unfortunately did not. So Nick, before we wrap up, I just want to give a quick preview of just the national championship game. So it's Ohio State and Notre Dame. It's Monday, January 20th, MLK Day. Unfortunately, it's here in Atlanta. But what are your early thoughts about that matchup, Nick? And who are you predicting to win the game?
It's going to be similar to what we've talked about. It's going to be similar to like Ohio State, Penn State. How much can the Notre Dame defense slow down Ohio State? Ohio State is a juggernaut. Texas slowed them down as much as you could and still lost by 2 touchdowns. Obviously one of those is on the offense's fault. They gave that up. But that is an explosive offense. You broke it down very well. They have amazing talent, right? Receivers, running game, coordinators. They're like you said, they're pissed off. They want to win. But Notre Dame has a very good defense. How much can they stop them? How much can they stifle? And the key is, how much can Notre Dame score? Can they keep up with Ohio State? I don't think they can keep up enough. I checked the line before we started. Ohio State is favored by 8.5. I would be slamming that. I think Ohio State. I think Ohio State wins. I'll go 28-17. I think they kind of cruise a little bit. Maybe it's close at the beginning, and then Ohio State puts them away. But Ohio State, man, Texas, like you said, Texas did an awesome job. This was not a 2-touchdown game. I know we're going to get comments about it was a 2-touchdown game. Yes, technically it was at the very end, but the entire game, it was 1 touchdown, and then they scored a late one. Does Notre Dame have enough offense to keep up with their offense? Obviously, we did not. Do they? We'll see. I'll be rooting for them, but I got the Buckeyes 28-17.
That's a good score prediction. So before I get to my analysis, my score prediction is 35-24 on Ohio State. And yes, that's the key. How much can Notre Dame generate a running game? Because we know their running backs are really good. But can they have enough of a passing attack to move the ball downfield on those Ohio State's defense? Because they have studs. Number 44, JT. We know Jack Sawyer. We know Caleb Downs. There's a safety. Ransom is also an amazing player. I don't think Riley Leonard – actually, I don't even say I don't think. I know Riley Leonard is not as good as Quinn Ewers. He's a good running quarterback, but – he's going to be forced to be able to make the plays through the air in the passing game. And I have not seen consistently enough make those plays. So that's going to be a concern. And he is a little turnover prone. So Ohio State's going to get 1 or 2 turnovers off of him. So the Notre Dame's deep offense is a question, and can they win up front? Can they get enough push on this Ohio State, defensive line? We were able to in the second half, but can Notre Dame do that consistently? Because you're going to be able to have to score against this Ohio State's defense. To flip it, Notre Dame's defense, how do they cover Jeremiah Smith? Are they going to have the same look that we did where they bracket him? They're going to have a helping safety? Well, the problem with that is you get one-on-one matchups on your boundary corners as on Carnell Tate and Egbuba. So you cannot take away everything. And I believe Ohio State's going to figure out a way to get Jeremiah Smith more involved into the game. So once he's more involved, that's going to open up everything for Ohio State. So that's going to be too tough for Notre Dame to defend. And Ohio State's running game is going to have a huge game in the Natty. Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson, I believe, are going to go crazy, and they're going to balance that with a passing game. It's going to be too much Ohio State's offense, and they're going to win 35-24.
I think that's fair. I mean, it's really going to come down to how much they can. And I like Riley Leonard. I think he played really well against Georgia. We'll see how much they can give. Hopefully it's a good game. I mean, excuse me, but hopefully it's a good game. It's for they battle it out and it comes down to the very end. But we'll see. I mean, I know Notre Dame has been doubted all season. It's really cool to see them make this run after. And I love Marcus Freeman. Such a good coach. Such a cool story. Playing his old team. He was a linebacker at Ohio State. I'm sure everyone's heard that story right now.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I'm going to be pulling for them. Less so about Ohio State, but I think it's just cool that Notre Dame is back in it. They've been in a national championship. Obviously, they've won several, but the last time they were in, I think, was 2012, and they got whooped against Alabama. So obviously, they want to win this one. But yeah, hopefully it's a good game. Hopefully it's entertaining. I think Marcus Freeman. We've doubted him and his team a lot this season, especially after losing to Northern Illinois at home.
Worst loss of the season. Yeah.
only loss all year, and they've continued to go and go and go, and they beat Penn State. And so we'll see. I think if anybody can do it right now, I think it's them. They're playing awesome. So hopefully the Irish can get it done. But if not, I mean, it's been an awesome season, and hopefully we just have a great game either way.
Very true, yeah. And they were down, was it 10-0 against Penn State, I believe? Like, so when they're 10-0. Down, 10-0, they can come back. So this Notre Dame is a team with a lot of fight. They have a lot of guts. Marcus Freeman is not only an amazing coach, but he's an amazing human. Just talking about it, he's the right person to lead this Notre Dame team. And I even love the Notre Dame story even more because what's the LSU's coach name? Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly basically left Notre Dame's and basically admitted that, yeah, I can't win a championship at Notre Dame. It's at LSU and now struggling. What does Marcus Freeman do? He attacks the portal. He attacks recruiting, and they're in the national championship game. So it's a very cool story. And the story for Ohio State is, as I mentioned, they have not won a championship in a decade. So what's going to prevail? They're going to battle it out January 20th in Atlanta. Well, I wanted to thank you, everybody, so much for watching, Touchdown Texas. We had an amazing football season. We appreciate everybody that, tuned in for our games, for the game, our post-game reaction. Me and Nick, as Nick said, we're not going anywhere. We're going to be doing all these off-season, episodes, having some fun episodes in there because there's a lot to discuss, this off-season. Just to give a preview, some of the episodes we're going to be doing is Quinn's legacy, Arch Manning taking over as a starting quarterback, NFL draft episodes, stay or go. We're going to break down this transfer portal class, this freshman class. So there's a lot to talk about. But Nick, it was a hell of a ride, man.
Hell of a ride. I mean, man, what a first season to do the podcast. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, I was thinking about that the other day. Like, what a banger of a year to start out with. Just having an awesome season. So I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for the off season, for another round of season 2. So hook 'em, and we'll see you guys soon.
Yep, we'll see y'all soon. And before we log off, be sure to follow us at touchdown_Texas on our social media channels. Subscribe and like our YouTube channel. And stay tuned for our off-season content. But until then, hook 'em.